on and coffeeberry in the spring. We'll have some of the buckwheats in the late summer. Cilantro to flower and white dill. Those are all attractive to beneficial insects. So a native population that we try to build up, and that could be ladybugs, it could be probably more parasitic wasps. Syrphid flies are really good aphid predators. And then if you have insectary species in the field, then that gets them off, to move into the field where you need them. So that's one of the benefits of the hedgerow. Plus they really are showing a lot of pollinators. So we've built up our native pollinators, especially sweat bees, bumblebees, and then there's always honeybees around. Some beekeeper has bees somewhere, or there's some that have found a place to survive, and we see a lot of them in our hedgerows when the species are flowering. So we posed the question, Jeff, and you weren't there, but one field over here with the nice mulch, cover crop mulch, we asked how we would do onion production there that's in no-till, and nobody had any good ideas yet.
I'm sorry about that. Big time with it. The last 2 years, I didn't.
No, it's not.
Well, you're an optimistic guy all the time.
No, there's a lot of factors that play into that. I think the low moisture levels, I think those have subtle effects. Cutting down your production has a little bit of an effect. We're good for a little bit longer, aren't we, Jeff?
Well, just a few minutes, I think, because we got to get going, because I got to let you go too, Phil. I put your stuff up there in your truck. Table with the scale.
Oh, I was going to go get, thanks, Jeff.
No, I'm just trying to, you got a long day and you've already done a lot, so have they been asking questions?
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Good.
Well, we haven't hardly hit any vegetables yet, so we'll do a little vegetable loop.
Oh, where are we going to go?
We'll loop around over here. I was going to get back around over there, but we may not have quite enough time, but we'll see what you think.
Well, maybe we can go, up to the hoop house and then back?
We'll see.
No, but seriously, you got to get going.
Okay.
It's too hard. All right. We got a couple more last legs over here now.
So this is our weather station for the farm, and we have it online, so we can check temperatures anytime we want. It's concern in the winter on low temperatures overnight, high temperatures in the summer, plus we keep data on it, and it has a rain gauge. It lets us know evapotranspiration, so the weather station, we have one on each ranch, gives us quite a bit of data. I know we haven't been by too many vegetables, but at least we'll get on the vegetable loop now. So what do you think we have going on here with the row cover? Any reason for something like this to... Frost, it would be beneficial, but not in this particular case. Other crops, we would use it for frost protection. We have turnips planted underneath the cover, and we'll leave this cover on almost until harvest.
Students might need to some insects might.
Yeah. So what, not this time of year, but a little earlier, flea beetle can be a real problem on brassicas. Not on turnips. We don't really need, I mean, the leaves aren't generally sold, but something where like bunching greens, you know, where the leaves are important, that might be a reason to have the cover on. But maggot, the flies will lay their eggs at the base of the plants. If you have the row cover on, they can't get to the base of the plants. If they do lay eggs there, then their larvae can really scar and destroy the root, because that's what we're selling is the root on turnips. So that's why the row cover. We use it in a lot of other cases, sometimes for warmth, sometimes to keep cucumber beetle off, flea beetle off. Yeah, mostly for pest control and a little bit of warmth. We have kohlrabi. We have some collard, lacinato, and kale. You can tell in really small plantings because we're only marketing them mainly to our farmers markets. Red and gold beets, broccoli. So this is green cabbage that we'll have prior to Thanksgiving. This is our first planting on this ranch. We have 4 more, so they will give us cabbage for Christmas, and January we'll run cabbage. Fennel, we have year-round fennel. We probably sell 2 to 3 pallets of fennel every week, week in, week out. Except for Thanksgiving, we'll probably go up to 400 to 500 boxes for the couple weeks before Thanksgiving. This one and the one over here, they're for our Thanksgiving season. Thanksgiving, the week or two before Thanksgiving, the week of Thanksgiving can be some of our biggest sales of the year. Mainly because we have celery, we have onions, we have a lot of things that move in big volume. The bird machines are modestly effective. I would say they're not super, but we do have a hawk deterrent sound chip we can put in. The hawks mainly because they'll come and peck the drip tape, and then we're having to repair drip tape. I'm sorry, not hawks, crows. I got off on the hawk sounds for the crows. So the crow chip for, you know, they'll just mess around and bug things. Sometimes they'll hit a watermelon, but drip tape is a big problem. Blackbirds are a little bit of a problem. When we do get a little bit of worm, they'll go after the worms, and sometimes they'll shred the heads of the cabbage a little bit, so we deter them. White-crowned sparrows in the winter season, they can get in and shred brassicas or lettuces. So we can keep them moving a little bit with the bird machines. Probably changing up the chips, moving them around is a little bit more effective. You can tell maybe I'm getting a little bit off a little bit because I'm losing focus on some of the things.
No, see if there are any more questions.
Oh, we'll get.
We have not seen this, any of this yet.
So we do have, on this location, we have 12 acres of hoop houses. And we initially put them in for season extending of peppers and tomatoes. So these peppers are our last peppers of the season, and we'll probably get production off of these into early December. We have one more field tomato, but once we get a little bit of chill or frost, they're going to probably go downhill pretty quickly. So we do have an acre of pull tomatoes in the hoop houses, and that will give us tomatoes through Christmas and maybe into January. You know, they're not really high quality. We can pick nice red tomatoes in January, but they still don't have the great flavor, but they're probably better than a store tomato. And I probably pick tomatoes out of the hoop houses for my own use until the 1st of March, just because we can get them. So the hoop houses extend, and then that also allows us to get started a lot earlier. So we'll have peppers and tomatoes planting in early February, and that will kick off our season for tomatoes in May and peppers in June. So we really extend our season with the hoop houses. We'll do eggplant in the summer, and then we'll also do celery in the winter. Celery here in open field probably doesn't work in our area. It's too cold, too much rain, too much disease problems. But in the hoop houses, they're very productive. So we can do celery, lettuce in the hoop houses in the winter, and really give us a year-round program on lettuce and celery.
All right, Phil Foster, although this is clearly your passion, we got to head out. Which way are we going to go then? Around or what? We can't go for it. No,
okay, we'll just make a loop here.
We got to get going though, yeah. All right, I don't want to.
What time is it getting to be?
It's almost 4 o'clock.
Okay, and what time did you want to get on the road?
3:30. That's just so we don't get too late there.
Okay,
because it might be raining up there, and I'm just worried about the driving safety. That's all. But no, again, they have not seen this, and I can't thank you enough here. But go ahead. All right, good. Then let's make this the end. And yeah, that was Tom Willie on the phone, so I told him I'd call him later. Thank you for diversifying the whole tour here. This is incredible what you've shown us.
Is this onion?
It's onion family, but not onions.
Garlic.
Yep. So we've come along, hoop houses, all of them have plastic, and yet why don't we have plastic on this one? First of all, somebody guess the crop, what crop is growing here?
Onion or garlic?
Garlic, So garlic doesn't need protection in the winter. It probably does better in an open field. The only reason we have them in the hoop house is this is a variety, it's a turban garlic, and it comes really early. And so when you have a garlic mature earlier in the spring, you can get spring rains and you can really get the skin wet and the quality staining goes on. So we have the cover off for now, but we will cover this probably in March. And then as it finishes and matures, it will have the cover to protect it from rainfall. So that's the reason this particular early garlic is in the hoop houses. Our other garlic is in field situations. We don't grow as much garlic as we used to, but we do grow a small amount, and we're trying to buy seed from small-scale producers up in Oregon who grow specialty garlic. Creoles, turbans are ones that we can get from them that do particularly well here here. And then they're real gourmet garlic. They're nice big cloves. They're really good flavor, and so our customers can really, appreciate the quality of the garlic. The other thing, when we have a chance, we do like to take the covers off, even in the winter, because what happens is if you don't get rainfall on your ground and you're irrigating with groundwater, and we have a level of salts in our groundwater, so if you never get rainfall and you're always covered with plastic, then you tend to elevate those salts more and more. So whenever we can finish up a crop and pull the plastic off and get at least late spring rainfall, we try to do that in our hoop houses.
How do you physically get the cover over?
We have one of our tractors with the forks on the back, and we put bins on it, kind of stack up a pyramid of bins, and then we'll have the roll of plastic. Either if it's a new plastic, it comes from the side and they work it over the top. They can pull it from the sides, and a couple guys help it feed it. We can get the plastic over the top, and they kind of hold it in place, and then they use a special rope weave to weave over it. And the reason I like the rope weave instead of more of a locked in place for the plastic is if we ever get a wind event and we have to protect the steel, because with the plastic on and a heavy wind, you can collapse your steel, and we've had that happen to us more times than I would like to think of. So if we have to, we can cut the ropes, take the plastic off, and then at least protect the steel if we have to. This is a red butter variety that works really good for us in the hoop house. It's really the only lettuce that we do in the winter. You want to see tomatoes in the hoop houses briefly?
All right, but then seriously, Bill,
Yeah.
we gotta. Yeah, all right. I mean,
I won't. I'll get you back by 4:30.
These are what I was talking about. Here's one artichoke.
Oh, that's a perennial sunflower.
Yeah.
Okay.
These, if you boil those down, you can make a really effective pesticide.
Interesting.
I've never seen these attacked by pests because they produce their own compounds that
Well, we planted them. Hopefully, they would attract cucumber beetle, and they never really did. Not like the perennial ones.
they might kill them if you boil them down like that. Pretty easy recipe too.
There's an example of sweet alyssum insectary crop here with the eggplant. You're going to have a long day out of this, Jeff. I hope you're just going to have to collapse tomorrow, huh?
Oh, it'll be a long job.
Yeah, because you don't stay in Davis tonight, do you?
all right. Wow. This is spectacular.
Is this broccoli?
That is cauliflower. There's a white cauliflower, and the ones with the little bit bigger, less serrated leaf, that's Romanesco cauliflower. This is regular green cabbage. It follows those two that we looked at, and then our last fields are up here. We have other two cauliflower plantings here. This is the third, fourth, and fifth. So we'll have cauliflower for December, January, and February. So it's the time when we have less products, so the more items we can have for sales to stores and farmers market, it's desirable. Plus they give us work in the winter to keep people working all winter long, these types of crops. These are our hoop house tomatoes. This is how we trellis them. This is an indeterminate variety called Big Dina. We also have another set of hoop houses that have Big Beef. They're really good, flavorful beefsteak tomatoes. We do get a little powdery mildew in here. We treat with sulfur early, and then we do the trimming of the lower leaves to get the older leaves off. Sometimes they have a little bit of powdery mildew off. It just keeps the fruit a little cleaner. We can get a little bit of cracking at times, but if we keep the lower part of the plants cleaner, it does help with cracking, and we have a higher quality fruit. This time of year, these are just being picked once a week. You know, a month ago, tomatoes we were probably doing every 4 or 5 days. They just come that quick to keep, get the nice quality ones off, because we usually run them to a bright red tomato.
Is that why you grow indeterminates? Because that way they just keep producing and not determinates?
I like indeterminates. That's a lot more work to trellis and stake them, but they last longer. The fruit quality, I think, is nicer. Maybe they're a little easier picking. You can see them easier. I know the bush varieties that are hand-picked, they're mostly probably picked as a green variety, a mature green, and then they're gassed to get them to change color. But these ones we can pick full color, easy to see, good air movement in the canopy, less disease problems probably. Yes?
Oh, is there a reason that you did a box weave and not like a single line trellis?
I think it's just what a person gets used to doing, yeah.
Sure.
That we've always done that and has worked for the sugar snap peas. We do the same thing.
Do you fold them back over since they're indeterminate?
What we usually do is if we run out of stake, sometimes we put a small stake extension, or we'll take a hedger and just trim them, not so they don't flop over on us. When we go back by the sugar snap peas, I think there's in production now. You ought to grab some to taste. They're a nice variety. This end of the ranch you can tell we've come up in elevation. It doesn't look, when you're on level ground, it doesn't seem like much, but we're probably 20 feet at least higher than the low end of the ranch that we walked through. So our ability in the winter to have less chill damage, we tend to put all our winter crops up in this area where there's a subtle difference in cold, and it just it does give us a little bit of protection. We've had some winters, not very often, but we can get down to 20, and if we have 20 degrees, that's pretty hard on anything that we grow. So we will use row cover to protect if we have to on the ones most susceptible, but that's pretty unusual, usually 26, 27 in our coldest areas, and that we'll get about 4 to 5 degrees higher than that just by coming up higher on the ranch and getting a little bit of air movement. So our wells on this farm are up in this area. This is a 50 kilowatt solar system. It's tied in with the power for the wells, and it offsets about 35% of the power for the pumping equipment. We have the same size in the shop yard, and it offsets about 65% of the power for the cooling equipment in the shop.
Hey Phil, how many pounds of food do you produce on your farm?
How many pounds of
food do you produce on your farm, and how many hours does that translate to, like, managerially that you have to put in?
I've never calculated that. That's a good. That was. Yeah, I just never have thought about it in that way. Time to put in. I don't work as much as I used to, but on the busy season, it's probably easy to still do 60, 70 hours a week, possibly, but I take a lot more time off than I used to, and I don't work as long as I used to. These are carrots, and usually we grow our carrots in the field, but why would you guess we'd have carrots in the hoop houses?
one?
Oh, it's late in the season?
Late in the season. You saw how heavy the soil is, and if we get in a real rainy period, how heavy, how much work it is. So we have a little fallback area during the middle of the winter that we can keep some carrot production coming in our sales by with the ability to control the moisture in the hoop houses for carrots. They might not be as good a quality. They're going to taste as good, but we don't get as good as stands generally in the hoop houses. But they do give us a backup if we get in a really rainy spell. We might have a place to dig carrots and keep our sales going consistently for our customers.
Anybody have any like this questions as we're walking back now? Anybody have any of those? All right.
Sorry I couldn't give you a really good, I just haven't thought about it in those terms.
Nick got a rabbit there, so.
I know, he's a naughty little dog.
Well, that's organic pest management.
Yeah, I mean, when he gets gophers, yeah, he'll get a cottontail every now and then. He does work at it. When he catches a jackrabbit, that's really amazing.
Yeah.
So we have 4 plantings of sugar snap peas. These ones we're getting still a little bit off the top. This is the one we're mainly picking out of now, and then the third one is just getting ready to start, and we will have one more pick. You know, the peas do pretty well in cold weather, but if it gets really cold, they will damage. So we don't want to go too far in December, but we want to try to run them through the end of November.
What's your favorite meal to eat with all your vegetables?
Cherry season is probably, cherries are my favorite if I can incorporate them into a meal. Sugar snap peas are good. Fresh tomato pasta is probably one of my favorites if, you know, talking about making a meal. Or just the variety. I mean, that's, sometimes there's not a lot of perks in farming, but one of the perks should be to eat pretty well if you're growing vegetables.
Yeah.
You catch a baseball game tomorrow, Jeff, or do you have time?
So it is, it's 3-2, right?
Yeah. I think that, I don't know, are they playing tonight or are they?
I think it's tonight, actually.
Oh, so it could end tonight.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll listen on the way back or not. They've been good games, huh?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, a couple of them have been lopsided, but they've been going back and forth.
yeah. Well,
You have a good group of students, Jeff.
well,
You must not, all of them didn't come, did they?
that's the sad thing, and I don't know.
It
That's
looked like you have maybe half of them.
about right, 25 or 4 of them today. Yeah, that's too bad. I asked this group here why the other ones didn't come, because I was worried that in class, I probably expressed a little bit of visual frustration about some of them not coming, and more not coming last Thursday. And they said, no, they don't want to get up. That's 3 or 4 times. They were serious, too. And that's the reason they don't want to come on a...
Well, some people are not morning people, and it's, yeah.
Well, that's putting it politely. Typical Phil Foster.
Well, it might, seems like most of agriculture is kind of predicated on getting a good early start to your day, but
You're right. No, and one of them who asked you the hours there, just on Thursday, you know Chris Rupert, who he is? The president of Morningstar, he came to the class. He's kind of well, it got into political stuff, so we're going to go all the way up.
we're going to go up and straight over. Yep.
No, he told how he developed all the processing plants and everything, and how he made all the money. He didn't say that, but, and about working 80 hours. I was watching their faces, they were just in disbelief.
Of the length of the...
But also, at the end of it, when he left, I said, well, what are your general impressions? And one guy said, well, Well, that was, he had all those chances, but we'll never have them. That's just a defeatist kind of an attitude.
Oh,
Have an opportunity.
that's not, yeah. But it probably seems pretty daunting sometimes to what.
This is another dog, right?
No, this is Nick.
Oh, yeah.
He dropped his rabbit somewhere.